Hello, welcome everyone to the Flux Dev Meeting for July 24th.
We're in the meeting. It's a dev meeting. Um, yeah, we haven't listed an agenda yet. But maybe we could take some agenda items now. I'll list them down and we can talk through them. One that I just thought of based off of being on a call with some end users is I know we've talked about this probably before through many years of Flux history, but is there anything we can do to help people know like when things are thrashing? Um, just the question that's on my mind. So I'm just gonna put thrashing as a discussion topic. Um, and then maybe we should also talk since the last um since last week's meeting, we now have a release candidate build for the uh config map secret watches for customizing Helm controller. So the tags for those RC builds is in a comment on the related issue. Um, and then I don't know if there was any follow-up discussions on the Hotel RFC. I didn't work on the terminal states from last week for the Helm controller, but right now I have some work in progress and communication with the customized team um, for the string data support.
Yeah, man, let's get that
Nice.
in.
Yeah.
We totally missed the customized minor release did 2 weeks ago, sadly.
Yeah, it's been, I think just a low priority review. And to the point where I opened up a Slack DM with Cobalt. And we worked out some things in the Slack DM and I'm updating the tests now. And then uh, he's going to want actually a follow-up PR for the merging behavior to change um, to make the keys unique between data, binary data, and string data and stuff. So
Yeah,
there's
So,
a whole
so
test
can
suite for that.
you have a manifest with both for writing
Yeah.
to
Yeah, you
yeah?
yeah, you can have a manifest with both for secrets. Um, and when you give it to the kube API, the string data will win because it will overwrite the data fields. But on the config map side, you cannot have a manifest with both conflicting data and binary data. And currently, customize will output those, but it shouldn't. And they implied to me that I should fix that in a follow-up PR that's
Mm,
unrelated to the string data change. So what I've done in the string data PR that I have just locally right now is a test suite covering the fact that those behaviors do behave the way that they currently do. Um, and then can change them in a follow-up. So
yeah. Priority is to get that one merged. I don't care about the
yeah,
second one.
we just need we just need
Like,
something in there. I have sent several messages, both privately and um, publicly, about the field name. I spent some of this morning finding all of the places where people have asked for this field to exist and what names they have used, so that I can write up another public message poking about the field name. So yeah,
yeah, I
it's
would
like
not fight them. If they want a name that makes no sense, let's go with that and that's it.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
fine.
people will definitely want string data in there, right? Everybody when talks about this, it's about
Yeah,
no
yeah.
one says whatever else. That's There is no terminology for that. I mean,
if it ends up
but
being
anyway,
prefer string data output or something like
It's
long
like
like that,
one guy has a strong opinion about this, and then
yeah. Everybody else just wants the Boolean to be there. And ideally it should have the field name in it. So, but yeah.
exactly, yeah.
Uh-huh.
With any prefix they want, I don't know, preferred,
Yeah.
override, whatever, output type string data. There are like a million ways of naming it with mentioning the actual field name that
yeah,
everybody
write a whole
understands.
phrase, make
Yeah.
it a
As
whole
long
phrase
as the field name's in
in
there, I'm fine.
camel case.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'm gonna push back on no encode. So I don't think that it is good for people. Like
It's
that's
cryptic, like you need to read the docs. No one will
and
figure
like
out
this.
what that
So
even
what I did
means.
is I went to all of the issues that I linked and I found individual links to comments where people are asking for the field name, and some of them are maintainers. So like,
Yeah.
yeah, pick one. I'm fine with any of them. Just, but yeah. That's the update on that. Mateus, it looks like you maybe might have added the SHA 256 digest.
I put that in there. I don't know if we'll even get to that because I'm going to have to leave about half hour into this meeting. But just to see if we've gotten any feedback, if anyone has tried it. I'm really interested in this feature. I'm looking forward to try it soon. I don't know if I will get around to it this week though. The capability where you can take an image policy and I think point it to a latest tag and then use the SHA-56 digest output from the image marker so that you get the latest image with just a single latest tag that gets rewritten every time. And there's no sortable image tags requirement, which makes it a lot simpler to deploy this and even compatible with Flux V1 in a nice roundabout way that is better by a long shot.
You
Yeah.
just found out about the digest patch. We released that months ago.
No, yeah, I was following it with a lot of interest, but I move a lot slower now because I have to do everything through a Jira ticket at my day job. So
Okay.
it's got to get
Yeah,
prioritized and in the backlog, and then
yeah. Yeah, I
maybe
mean, we got lots of feedback on that. Tons of people said like they switched to digests, not for latest, for immutable tags, for every single tag, because there are lots of organizations that they have these admission webhooks in there, and they enforce you to put a digest because if you have something like cosine verification inside the cluster, cosine errors out and says you should verify a digest. It's a warning, you can bypass it and so on. But in order to actually make sure, you should not refer to images by tags, which by nature can be mutable. You should refer to images by digests. And lots of people couldn't put this policy in place, OPA, Kyverno, whatever. Hey, you have to have digests everywhere because Flux was not able to patch that way, right? So that type of request came mostly from these people which have this kind of policies, and they all turn it on and enable the policy on the apps that Flux is doing the update. So even if they never change the tags, they do same word tagging, they still want to point by digest in the deployment or stateful set or whatever it is, which for some organizations that are, very obsessed with security makes a lot of sense. So it also matches Dependabot behavior. If you look how we use Dependabot, right? We don't use Dependabot in the Flux organization to bump the version, just the version of GitHub Actions. It bumps the version, but it pins it by its digest, right? So in case someone rewrites the tags upstream, gets hacked, we don't get hacked because we have everything pinned on digest, right? So basically now we are on par with what the Pandabot was doing, and everybody out there loves this digest spinning. In case of a Dependabot, it does digest spinning when it updates a Docker file in the from Alpine, it tries that. And for GitHub Actions, is the Git shop. And now GitHub will, I don't know, the secret or not, will be moving to Actions through OCI and need to use shard digests, what image automation. But if they do that, you could actually, bump GitHub Actions with image automation if you want. So it's a YAML, it can do the same stuff. Anyway, there is a lot of overlap between the two tools. Yeah, so try it out. Let us know how it went when
Nice.
you
Thank you.
finally managed to make it.
Um,
Around that thing with image automation and image policy. So the goal is to make image automation GA in Flux 2.7. And we discovered that we can't trigger an image policy reconcile with the CLI nor with a notification controller. And this is basically an overlook from the fact that before digest, image policy was a static thing, right? But now, if you say to a policy, fetch me the digest, then the policy actually has an interval and reconcile itself, goes to the controller goes to the registry, takes the digest for that particular tag.
And by the way,
So
there's a cell expression during admission that I added for only allowing interval if the policy is always.
yeah, good thinking. Yeah, because otherwise we trick people into thinking we do any work if it's not digest, but we only do work in image policy reconciler if you say digest, because we need to query the upstream registry. And now the problem is during an incident or whatever, right? Maybe you push something and you push latest. Image repository will not do anything. If you do Flux reconcile image repository, if you use latest, image repository will say, good, nothing
Too late.
changed. The same tags are there, right? So what you have to do is Flux reconcile policy, and that will get the latest the new digest corresponding to the latest tag, right? So we were missing this feature. Flux contributor discovered this, and this will be now part of. We will be working with him to get a pull request in, and that will be part of GA. But it was a great find because it was a missing feature, basically, that everybody expects to do Flux reconcile something and it should work, but it didn't work for image policy because it previously didn't have that kind of behavior, it didn't reconcile anything. Now it does. So I think Mateus, that's the last thing
Yes.
before stamping GA.
Spec.suspend. Do we have to patch his receiver to allow image policy?
No, because receiver can do image repository and they are on the same API group. And the RBAC is allow receiver to act on image dot. So how we write our RBAC between controllers, when one controller has access to something under a Flux group, we give it rights for the whole group. We don't differentiate between image policy and image repository. If it needs to act on the image group, it can act on everything. So I don't think we need to change anything in RBAC, but there are things to change.
Yeah, I was thinking actually about the enum of the kind field of receiver spec resources, but it's already there.
It's
There is
there
image.
because of image. Yeah, it's there. Yeah, we decided back then to add everything there in case. So yeah. I don't think we need that. But anyway, that's another valid point. If you have webhooks and you use latest, the receiver, the Flux receiver, shouldn't point to the image repository because it will not do anything. The receiver should point to the policy and it should trigger a reconcile on the policy for you to get latest patched immediately in Git. So yeah, I also think we need to document better the digest stuff because we completely forgot about, reconcile, receivers, all of that stuff when we shipped it in 2.6. There is a notification guide, and I think that's the good place to document such a thing, not in the API spec, but in the guide where we do you think Kingdom will be useful to write in the notification side thing about latest,
Yes.
right? For years, people asked for this, and maybe it's worth writing like a section there. Hey, now you can work with latest. This is how I can do it. This is how I can set receivers. And
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's the guide called Setup Webhook Receivers.
yes,
That would be a good addition to that guide, for sure. I would be happy to help with that. Yeah.
yeah. So I think for Flux 2.7, when we say image automation GA, we should actually highlight again all the things around latest that now work with Flux. Because maybe lots of people have missed it from the previous thing.
Cool. I've taken a note that we want to add a document for image policies with the dynamic outputs. And that there's work in progress to add the flux reconcile policy command.
Yes.
Yeah, they started with the spec.suspend because they were looking into the command, but then the command they tripped over the fact that there's no suspend. So yak shaving spec.suspend.
Should there be suspend?
If you can reconcile it, you should be able to suspend.
Should be able to
Yeah.
suspend, right? Do we need to? Are
Yeah,
we missing?
yeah. When digest reflection policy is always it makes sense to have spec.suspend.
Is that another to do?
Yeah, that's I just thought we have an issue in Flux 2 tracking all the things we need for GA,
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
and it's already there. I just added there's 3 items there. There's remove status.latest image, there's the command, and there's spec.suspend.
Yeah. And we had other to-dos that we managed to do them, like deprecating the old templating in image automation. A lot of people will be very affected by that, but that's life. We said, I don't know, 8 months ago, yeah, or more.
It's an API bump. It's an API bump.
Yeah,
No
yeah, yeah.
complaint.
We deprecated that long. I think 1 year ago we deprecated the templates till they introduced the new ones. So yeah, that's going away. So people will have to update their templates if they haven't do it in the last year. And after we add spec suspend and image policy is conformant with the reconcile interface, I'm going to do that. I'm going to bump all the APIs to GA and have it merged. And any other features will just go directly to GA. There is no point in implementing more things in the beta stuff, right? But new fields have to be in beta and also in GA for the converter to work. Right? So spec suspend is good to have it now merge it
Okay.
before we go to GA. We need spec suspend and the status field in beta, so it's in the API spec. So when the upgrade happens at admission, it will not result into field not found or whatever. Right.
Regarding
Well,
image reflector, how interested are we in improving the memory usage? Like I could totally update the Badger DB defaults.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. We dropped the ball on that, and because there was too close to the release, and we just shipped the configuration. But
Yeah,
yeah, please.
we got the garbage collector out. Yeah.
but think about D2, for example. D2, this controller doesn't even run all the time. It runs on a GitHub action.
Exactly.
Like,
So the memory usage is actually kind of important because if you're like consuming more memory than is necessary inside of a CI action, like
oh, I thought it was an issue of that would like over time be a problem.
No, it's based
No?
on if you have many tags. In CI is even worse because in CI you start up the controller, then you have to pull potentially thousands of tags. It will go over the threshold. The memory will balloon for nothing.
Okay. I
Right?
thought it was
No.
a problem that builds over time. Okay.
I mean, like using Badger for this is honestly like versus just like a SQLite database would be like way better.
No way, man. SQL database means CGO. We are not going to get that ever in Flux again. No SQL database.
Yeah, I mean, even just writing to like files on a disk would probably work pretty okay. Like a file per tag name, and that's your key value store. Like,
What source controller does? Yeah, we
Yeah.
discussed about this many times. We
yeah,
decided to go with image automation GA, right? So we kind of freeze the API here,
yeah.
and
Yeah,
then we have
I would
the
vote for replacing Badger. Like if we're gonna tackle this problem, I would vote for replacing Badger.
It's pretty easy for me to just like disable a lot of the Badger features. Like I can turn off the bloom filters, I can make the table sizes way smaller to the point where it's pretty much behaving as a key value store, like writing to a folder. Um,
yeah.
so
Yeah, I think so
Hmm.
for GA, let's fine tune Badger, trim it down,
yeah,
and make it work for what we need. It's just a bucket of
I'm
a
gonna
key value
try to
bucket.
target
Hmm.
like getting it to work with like some load test, like on a GitHub action, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a Raspberry Pi or something small. So small Colima VM. Yeah.
And then after GA, we can change this. We can change Badger because it doesn't affect the API, right? So
Wait. No, we already discussed about this. We are after GA, image reflector control will go away. There is no need for image reflector control.
Are you just gonna
What?
move it into
Source control already does everything. Source control resolves, digests for tags,
okay.
keeps a list of tags when you do a semver for OCI repository. All the code is there.
Yeah.
Source control
I
has a
I agree.
top-notch storage based on files on disk, no database, no nothing. Very resilient. So the discussion we had many times before, like years before, Mateus, you weren't part of the maintainers crew back then, was that we can't, we need to get image automation as it is to GA, freeze it. We can't tell people, oh, we are moving APIs, whatever, but nothing is GA, everything is beta, right? We can't do that. For all the Flux users that are there, we need to ensure that, yes, this is image policy, it's image repository, and so on. These are the controllers we do a GA. And for V2, image policy and image repository should be in source controller. I would vouch for why would we even need an image repository? That can be an OCI repo with a flag that don't pull anything. Just do everything else that you do because it already does everything that image repository does. Gets all the tags and orders them. Right?
So you would just point like image update automation to image repos then, or
No, image automation has
image
nothing to do with
policy,
repos.
image policy to OCI repository, and image update automation still consumes policies.
Yeah, image automation control does not care where it comes from. It only looks at policies, of course. So the first candidate is we don't actually need image policy, image repository, because we have OCI repository. The only thing we do in OCI repository that image repository never does is pull stuff, right? So OCI repository, what it does first, it lists all the tags, right? If you have a assembler expression or whatever.
It would need to write them in disk for image for new image policy.
So we just use the storage like we use it for Helm index. It's the same stuff, right? What's a JSON with tags? What's a JSON with version of Helm chart? Like we already have all the code. It's very easy to hook up the same stuff. We have caching already set up in there, everything, right? All the code is there. We can just easily hook it and we don't need any badger. We have persistent on disk. We have memory cache, which already works with the JSON, which is Helm index. We also have a JSON with all the tags. So changing that code is very easy. The problem we have is that
sorry, go.
The difference in behavior right now is that OCI repository, after it decides, oh, this is the tag I want, it does the resolution of the digest, and then it pulls the artifact. What we need to do is tell image automation to stop after listing the tags. It shouldn't do digest resolution, only list the tags, save them, right? If we can change as an opt-in, of course, this behavior for OCI repository, then we can either rename image policy to OCI policy or keep image policy as it is with a reference to OCI repo, right? But there's a big discussion here if we get rid of image reflector as a requirement from image automation, and definitely image repository makes no sense inside source controller. Should we keep image policy as a name that doesn't quite make sense for source controller? Should we rename it, right?
Yeah, I vote we introduce features in OCI repository to match the requirements needed for image policy. And we create a new API called OCI policy in source controller. That does exactly the same thing as image policy.
That will also, I'm also inclined on doing this because then you can actually run image reflector alongside the new APIs. Because we never touch image policy. It's a different custom resource that can live in the same cluster. So
yes,
we allow basically a migration that has image automation in place, image automation in the source ref, in the selector of the policies, will also select OCI policies. So you can run them in parallel and migrate not at once, one by one. You replace image repository with an OCI repository with the flag get tags only or whatever you want to call it, and you port your image policy one by one. They can run in parallel. At some point you say, okay, now I decide I don't need, I migrate everything, delete image reflector, right? And it's makes Flux, let's say, lighter. You have one controller less. It does a lot, has watchers, has all these things. And you already have all the code, all the permissions, all the RBAC, all the OEDC stuff, everything is already in source controller because source controller works with container registry. So this kind of change does not changes the security profile of what source controller does today. Is the same security profile because source control already works with OEDC, has workload identity for object, knows how to deal with Docker secrets, everything, right? So we basically, that's why I'm inclined on thinking about this change is because we don't tie security in any way.
Mhm.
Source control will not do extra things. It does
Like
what
OCI policy is just logic. There's no
So I would maybe, yeah, like I like OCI policy as like a different kind. Um,
yeah,
I
right?
think
UAPI.
or OCI metadata or something because like you could write all kinds of controllers about the metadata inside of an OCI artifact. Like could be like looking for, you know, like different different like MIME types or like you want to like see if there's a vex document or um those sorts of
Like more sophisticated filtering.
yes, yeah, like it's like not even just tag lists, right? Like there's all kinds of stuff inside of the artifact, right? But
yeah, but
But
those are not queryable, right? You can, so the only thing you can do with the container registry based on the OCI API is list tags. You can't do anything else because anything else is crazy expensive to do it for all the tags. So
it's one
basically,
API call per tag, right?
yeah, to get the manifest because, so how I see it, this OCI policy will have to match a single tag based on something. Then the policy itself can have things like look at the artifact type, look at the index type, look at
yeah.
the media type inside the artifact. We have already all this stuff
Uh,
because OCI repo has a layer select.
mhm.
So I've already implemented all of that. We look at all this metadata to pick up the right layer because how I see it in the future is you'll be able to push a container image that has in the index multiple architectures for the binary. But you can also attach to that index a layer of type CNCF Flux CD
Yeah,
that contains
the
the
configuration.
artifact, the configuration, which is a Helm release. You'll also attach there the Helm chart, a layer of type CNCF Helm,
Yeah,
right? So you'll have the Helm release here and the Helm release and the OCI repository inside and the chart bundle everything together with the container image, right?
it's
That
like a
means
mono artifact.
yeah.
Yeah, it
And that's
has
why,
the only thing is just like the con of that is that container D has to pull those layers when you actually want to run the artifact itself too. But yeah.
no, it doesn't. So if it's if in the index the reference is unknown, it will not do it.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's already sorted. If you look at how we publish our own container images in Flux, you'll see they have S bombs in there, they have
Right.
attestations in there,
Right.
salsa, everything.
Yeah, and container
If you
D,
look at the that's not ending up in container because
yeah,
container D only picks the multi-arch index and then it expands on that.
yeah.
These are parallel.
Yeah, because it's all in the top level manifest list. Yeah.
Yes, the
Sign
index.
the
It's
manifest.
the index is an index of manifest when you do
Yeah.
multi-arch. It has a different
Mhm.
structure,
I guess
right?
you can also like recursively sign like all the individual images too, but
Of course. Yeah.
yeah, okay. That
Yeah. So the OCI policy could, besides the fact of which tag I want, do I want to resolve into a digest? Do I want to verify some other policy than just cosign signature or notary signature? We can say, hey, I expect to have this type of layer. And the layer should be, I don't know, signed differently. Or you can have all sorts of policy in there, right? Based on, I don't know, extract the X bomb, send the S bomb to 3V. And if 3V gives you 90% green, only then let Flux deploy it, or you can imagine crazy amounts of policies based on something like that can reflect other type of metadata. It's not Flux goal to do scanning or whatever, but an OCI policy can be that,
Expose the information for some other controller. Yeah.
right. Yeah,
Um,
reflect inside the cluster useful information for a scanner, useful information for a policy agent, and so on, right? Without them having to download and do all the stuff.
So I'm thinking about how the whole workflow is gonna look like when you want to upgrade tags with this new OCI repository and OCI policy pair, and also feed that into an OCI repository that will actually pull the artifact and serve it to Helm or customized controller. Then you would have two OCI repository objects and one OCI policy. And but then you could, but like if people did like in the two, then it's one OCI repository for the CI cluster to list the tags, and the OCI repository in the production cluster to pull the artifact, right? So they would need two OCI repository objects, yes, but one is just for the CI cluster and the other is for the production cluster. Does
Yeah,
that make
right now
sense?
they need an image repository and an OCI repository, right? Image repository lists the tags. You have a policy. Oh, I want whatever stemver. Then image automation opens a pull request and patches the OCI repo manifest in the repo. Instead of having image repo, OCI repo, image policy, you'll have two OCI repos, one that does the listing, one that does the fetching, and an OCI policy that decides what means latest. Right.
can we just like just move this like other OCI repo that is only for tag listing? Can we just move that spec like directly into the OCI policy? Because like you're always gonna need it, right? And like
Yeah, so hear me out. The
in the
reasoning for
controller's
having
API. So
the reason for having image repo and image policy at the beginning when we design image automation was that you would use an
You can
image.
reuse.
Yeah, you can use an image repo in many policies.
Yeah.
But in practice, I never seen it. I never seen this use case in practice. When are you going to have?
I did
You
in
did?
my last job. In my last job, we had one OCI, like one image repository for the app and multiple image policies for different development environments.
yeah.
So you have an app and you have like I had color environments. So red, blue, green, yellow, and you would push tags with the color prefix and you have multiple image policies. But at the same time, you would also have like you would also have one image repo per policy anyway because they were in different namespaces inside the dev
Exactly.
cluster.
Multi-tenancy does
Yeah,
not allow you to do that, right?
yeah,
That's what
yeah.
I'm saying. If you assume that the majority of Flux users should run with multi-tenancy enabled, then that's why I don't see it in practice because most clusters I'm seeing in the last years are all multi-tenant. And in the same namespace, if you have two image policies, image automation will get very confused because it will find both policies. What are you going to annotating it, green or blue? If it's in the namespaces, you can't have two policies on the same file, right?
Yeah.
So
It's
I
like
think,
almost like if you have the OCI repo, like two of them, I would almost be inclined to have OCI policy point to a different kind that's like OCI tag list or something.
But
Um,
but but like we like if the OCI policy lists and elects
I
latest.
mean, uh, I think I think it's an architectural misstep to have like different functional artifacts being split by tags, even though the repo has one name and like all of the MIME types are the same, you know? Like a manifest list is like one tag, one digest, that points to a same functional artifact across architectures or and then like a tag list of those manifest lists points to content for like a single artifact as it evolves. And if you have an artifact that's config, like that should probably have like one function. um but then like yes, splitting up on the tag and like having a bunch of different blobs, like that's like a strange way to use OCI that I have used, that I've done. I specifically, my most recent thing with that was like a Nix store. Like I had one OCI repo where all of the tags like pointed to different blobs, like that are effectively different packages. But yeah,
Yeah, but we are encouraging a really bad practice doing that.
yeah, I mean, it's like Flux won't stop you from doing it. But it's just like we shouldn't shape the API to
Exactly,
encourage
yeah.
that behavior. Um,
Because scanners will mess up completely. Like all the things will be messed up because you have the container image pod info when inside is Postgres, Redis, pod info backend, pod info frontend, whatever, as tags, because they are, let's say, part of the project name. That's very, very bad from all things. Like we shouldn't encourage this kind of practice. Right? We should, if you do that, you should create policies for every single thing and not have one policy that can reflect all of this stuff from a single repo.
I
But
do see like the same functional artifact being split to different environments, uh, or like different customer configurations or different whatever, but it's the same functional artifact, right? And you want that version to go to different places depending on the format of the tag. Like having one tag list with multiple policies on it, it's a thing that makes sense mainly from an environmental perspective. Um, but it's like it doesn't have to be optimized that way per se. But
yeah, I mean the what we told people and what we encouraged people was encode in your tag either the branch name and something that can be ordered like a timestamp. So one of the recommendation we made, oh, if you build from main, you should have main minus short git sha that can't be ordered. We can't do anything with you. That's only for tracking purposes minus Unix timestamp. And we extract the timestamp, and that's how we figure out what is the latest um, SHA that
yeah, or
actually is latest in Git, right?
build
Another,
numbers.
yeah.
Yeah.
Another recommendation we made. It's okay to encode in the tag the name of the environment, dev minus timestamp, dev minus a version, and you can then filter. On the dev cluster, the tag has to be prefixed with dev, and then what comes after it, dev minus can be semver or timestamp again, right? But we never encourage people to put the app name in the tag and mix all the things together. So I don't think we should change that kind of recommendation or, skew our API in that direction. But to your point, it would have been from a end user perspective, it will be easier to just define a policy that also lists things because it's one. You don't have to create something that fetches the tags and something that orders the tags. You have a single API that fetches and orders. The problem with that is all the things with authentication that gets attached to what means fetching. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know, object workload identity, right? You need a service account in there, or you need a secret ref to the Docker secret and all of that stuff, which are then you mix this concern, this domain of authentication and authorization with the domain of filtering and ordering.
Yeah. I think because of this discussion, like my instinct here, for a reason I haven't mentioned yet, is I think it's weird to be able to reference uh effectively what is a tag list, like say an OCI repo that has an option that says it's not pulling an artifact, it's just a tag list with status information. It's weird to be able to reference that from a customization or a Helm release. Um, so
It will break.
my instinct, yeah, and it's like, okay, fine, yeah, like let it break. But it feels like a weird division of the APIs for that to be possible. Um, I would think like just copying the image rep the OCI repo spec like into a different kind that is like OCI tag list or something. And then the policy just references a tag list and all the examples are image policy, image tag list. Now or OCI policy, OCI tag list, like then it's clear like yeah, these things are decoupled, you can
Yeah,
reuse it, but it's also greppable, like kind OCI tag list, and now you're looking at, stuff that's
yeah.
only for the
No,
same tag
that makes sense. Like, it's weird to have OCI repository have two different purposes with like one API doing actually two kind of very different things, right? Fetching the artifact versus listing tags is
Yeah, it
kind
can
of
have like
very
this
different.
the
Yeah.
same function. The controllers can call to the same libraries. We can deduplicate all the code. We can use the same uh I don't know,
Authentication, everything. Yeah, yeah.
you can utilize the same cache code with a different cache key or whatever, for those things, but then like it just feels to me like
Yeah.
when would the artifact that's being pulled versus the tag list ever be the same thing, right? Like so it would be a strange declaration to have two OCI repos and a policy with the policy pointing at one of them and then updating the other one. Like that just feels like a weird.
Uh,
Hmm.
So
How about
if there's a tag list, a policy, and a repo, then that feels
oh, and there is another thing that people have asked for, which kind of links into this. Like people were looking at image policy and they were saying, but I want this policy for Git tags,
yeah.
right? Why
Now it
wouldn't,
can be a Git
why,
tag list.
right? For example, in the policy, we have this thing where we can exclude stuff and say, oh, we are going to exclude some prefix or some part of the tag, right?
Mm.
And
Hmm.
people then are saying, but I do this thing with Git tags and I want to exclude stuff, but still get latest. And Git repository as an API object does not have all the properties of the
Oh,
image policy, right?
yeah, 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 yeah.
And always my response was just do a Flux push and then you can use all the things because then you have OCI
Yeah.
repo and so on. Don't use Git.
Yeah.
But now, if we think about having this policy object in source controller,
Yeah.
why wouldn't it be a source policy
Yeah, this could be like a version policy.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
or yeah,
Yeah.
whatever,
Version
uh,
Yeah.
policy is good.
You know,
something policy
now the digest could
or
be like
or
a
or just policy because it's in the source
source
controller
policy.
group,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Source
Yeah, it can
controller
be
policy. Yeah.
it's the source group and the kind can be directly policy. And then the policy can look at all the sources.
So how about this? So first of all, maybe it makes sense to add version to the name, version policy, because it's specific about versions. And second, why don't we make like an API that can have a reference to either an OCI repository or a Git repository and reuse the authentication configuration there, similar to how image update automation references a Git repo for authentication configuration. And this API, these two APIs, so version policy and version list or something, they can be decoupled from if it's Git or OCI. And so version list has a reference to OCI repo or Git repo. And then version policy has a reference to version list. And then these two APIs, they kind of do the exact same thing as image repository and image policy, but they are decoupled from OCI or Git. They can work with either. And
It's
ta-da!
it's possible. I don't like the idea of creating a diamond between, like, say, having a version policy that updates something and then a version list that also grabs the auth from that thing. That feels potentially like a dangerous way to express the programming model. I think the dissonance here is almost that, like Git repo, it has auth information in it that's not decoupled from itself, right? Like the auth info is in the Git repo, and now there's a desire to like have that information, but for something else, right?
But that's already the case. It's image automation policy.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
exactly what it does.
Yeah, but
Because no one
now
wants to redeclare all the
yeah.
auth configuration on image automation policy.
And then
exactly.
we're probably stretching too much if we create an API only for authentication, like Git repository auth, and then make Git repo reference it,
Yeah, no
and
way.
like that's too much, right? That's like
Uh, I
We
yeah,
think
already have secrets, right? I mean, that would be like really crazy. It would be like something static that has only a secret ref.
yeah,
That gets reference. No, that's
yeah.
no.
yeah,
And
having
but I
source
do
controller have like a version policy, and then there is like OCI tag list, Git branch list, Git tag list, like whatever lists of things that you want, like, and then you have the policy point to the list of the thing, and you can filter it. That feels, and then just put the auth, like redeclare the auth on the list object. Like if it's in the
but
same
that's what
namespace, you
people
can
don't
point to the
want,
same
right?
secrets. You can, use the same service account, whatever. But
Yeah, I don't know. And adding so many new CRDs, it's a horrible maintenance nightmare.
so,
Controllers for everything, it's a lot of work. Okay, let's
uh,
pause here. I think we talked, we did a brainstorm. We don't need to decide anything. First thing
um,
first is GA image automation, and
yes,
we have next year to think about other steps. After GA
I like this
automation,
discussion. I didn't think about how that could be applied to the Git stuff. That's something to look at in the future. Can
Yeah,
I?
but essentially, I think the takeaway is we mirror the APIs from image reflector controllers in source controller and make them agnostic of OCI to work with Git as well, right? Essentially.
no,
No?
I would not. No, we can have this discussion again. I really don't think we have decided anything.
Not a
No,
decision. Yeah,
it's
Yeah, no, yeah, I
it's
would say as a decision,
context. We
just
talked about it. We'll talk about it later at some point. Um, should we convene, or should I ask the question about if we can detect thrashing, or at least like maybe do something to help people detect it?
so yeah. The thing where multiple customizations overlap with some parts of the file system or the whole file system is something that bunch of people have done by mistake. And it's very easy to do it if you don't start with the Flux repo structure from upstream. If you don't start with one of our examples repo,
Yeah,
what people do is they put everything inside cluster.
yeah,
And inside cluster, they declare a new Flux customization that applies cluster/app without
inside.
being aware that the Flux system customizations applies cluster. So whatever we put in there, if it's an app directory, we recursively build customization.yaml with everything in the file system, right? So it's something that I've seen it done hundreds and hundreds of times by various users getting started with Flux. this and deleting the Flux system overlay and wiping your whole cluster, which will never fix because this is how Flux Bootstrap was designed.
Yes.
They can use the operator to protect against that. But to detect this kind of things, I overlapping parts of the path because it's not the whole path, right?
Yes.
One applies slash clusters dev, one applies clusters dev, app one overlay dev,
Mhm.
right? And I think the best way to do it in the CLI, we have the Flux debug command, debug customization.
Mhm.
We can add to the debug feature set where Flux debug, and you come up with the name, customization minus something, detect trashing, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Then, because with the CLI, we can list all the Flux customizations. We can extract the path, then use some algorithm that figures out overlaps and presents it in a nice report where we say, these things are overlapping, these other things are overlapping, right? I would not do this on the server side first. I will offer people a tool in the CLI, in the debug command. And I think it will make life so much easier for so many people because you usually get into this situation when you start, right? So
Yeah.
in the startup guides everywhere, you say, hey, after you think you have a good Git structure, when you apply it, run the Flux debug command on the cluster. And then it will tell you, things are not that great, right? And should be easy, right, to Mateus, to have an algorithm that figures out overlapping parts in a path.
I think for platform teams
In,
where there are shared sources, but people applying customizations from other places that might reference those shared sources, it could be difficult for a platform team to debug on behalf of the users. That
why not? If the platform team has access to Flux system, they manage Flux system.
yeah.
Right? They are cluster admins. They are the ones that can. They are the only ones that can run this command. A
So
tenant
the
can never run
CLI
this command.
can look at local files and it can also look at all of the objects inside of the cluster, and you can decide how
No, not local files. Only the cluster.
okay.
And
Yeah,
you have to be a cluster admin to do it. Only the platform team could run this command
makes sense.
because it's their responsibility in a way if things get overlapped, and is the easiest thing to develop right now and tackle that issue.
Um,
Looking at files on disk is very complicated.
is there any events or metrics generated or log messages, ideally maybe all three, that might occur when a customization repatriates objects from one customization to another?
The usual logs, events, and everything that Flux does, right? It's a normal procedure when you move things from one directory to another, when you refactor your repo. There's not a wording. Like you'll get an event where the name of the customization says name of the resource, kind namespace name changed because it relabels them. And how are people detecting this normally
Yeah.
is on Slack or Microsoft Teams or whatever you need to set up Flux notifications. Every time you change something in Git, you'll see two events very fast, one after the other. Flux system,
Changed,
deployment,
flipping back and forth.
apps, pod info change, then the app customizations that list the same thing changed, right? Because it takes ownership from that, and then the next apply, you have all this spam of. That's how people get on our Slack and say, "Hey, I have these spamming notifications. What's going on?" And my answer is, "You have overlapping paths, right?"
Yeah.
Um, so that's why I'm saying, let's not look at events. Let's not look at anything. We can just give them a command that clearly
That
states
looks at the static configuration.
at the configuration in the cluster, right? Because that's the source of ultimate truth, no matter how many Git repo sources you have, OCI repos, tenants. If you can list all the Flux customization or extract the path, then run some algorithm that says these are overlapping, that's a major step forward in UX, right?
This catches the case where the paths are the reason for the thrashing, right? So like if the Git repo is shared, it breaks if the Git repo is not shared. Like even if it's looking at the same repo, but the it's like the version is different or it's in a different namespace, right? Like now the repo is different, but the paths are overlapping still. Like now it's going to be hard to actually say whether or not these are the same thing. And then the edge case here that neither of those things will catch is when somebody is trying to manage, say, the same Kubernetes service from their app repo and their config repo, right? And then they're
When they
thrashing.
copy paste YAML in various sources.
Yes, right.
The
Yeah, like
path is different, the source is different,
everything about these
but
things is different. The only thing that's the same is the group version kind name namespace. Yeah,
yeah.
right. So it's like how, but okay. Well, glad we
So
talked about it. We don't have to solve it right now, but
to figure that stuff out, you need a database, you need to store all the events because customizations can reconcile at 10 hours,
yep,
24 hours. You need to collect everything in, I don't know, Elasticsearch or whatever, then run a
for
query.
outliers on how
Yeah,
on
it's hard.
changes. Yeah,
We can't solve this with the CLI command.
yeah,
Yeah, it's complicated. But for the main use case where people have a monorepo, they deploy everything from there. They have overlapping paths for the same source. We can help them out.
yeah. That we can have a CLI command that catches that, and then maybe provide some other ways of printing statistics on changes or something over time, and yeah, maybe write up a little page on the different cases where things thrash something. So
When you say overlap, what kind of overlap are you looking for? Any kind, right? Like a prefix or exact same path, right?
it gets
No,
funky because like sometimes the overlaps are not actually harmful. Like if you're using customization YAML in a folder that you're pointing to, and then there's subfolders that are ignored by that customization YAML that then are used in other things. So there's still edge cases, but
So it's okay to have a customization on a path and another customization on a path inside that path.
sometimes, but
depends. Yeah.
usually
It's
not.
horrible to do it anyway. We should error out if you do this. Like, you shouldn't be doing this stuff.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, I
so bad
agree. Yeah,
from
yeah.
the design of the repo. Of course, you can, because if you have customization.yaml in every single directory, and you don't include child uh,
Yeah,
directories, Flux that automatically builds a customization.yaml will stop at the first one that it finds, right?
yeah,
So those other things will not get applied. Should you be structuring your repo in such a horrible way? No. So if the CLI gives you a
Yeah,
warning, I don't think it's a problem. But
yeah,
right.
going back to your question, Mateus, the algorithm should be like this. No matter what path you have, you split the path by their parent, and if you find any match in parents, we need to present you are applying
Yeah.
path
Yeah.
because the
So
path
basically,
should be unique, right? Like if you look at all our
yeah,
repos,
yeah, yeah. So basically, you can't have a path that is a prefix of another path or two paths that are exactly the same. And
yes,
we can also look at the source object as well, right? Like if you have two different OCI repositories and the path is the same in the customizations, but they point to these two different OCI repositories, that's okay, right?
yes,
The problem is if the OCI repository is the same, the source is the same.
yeah.
And even though you could still have two OCI repositories point to
That
the
point to
same
the same.
actual repository, but I guess we
There
don't
could
have to
be a
process
flag
that,
or a
right?
secondary
Yeah.
warning or something to try and look for those types of errors. But yeah, that's not the
And look for the
most basic.
URL of the repository as well, right?
Oh
Like,
no, we should definitely look at the URL.
oh, okay, so
Yeah.
that should be actually the source of truth, right? So
Yes.
we traverse, we see the appliers referencing this source. We look at the source, the URL of the source, and type, and we figure out if the sources are truly the same
Yeah.
with all
This
we
is
can.
already done in Flux Trace, right? When you say Flux Trace this, it will tell you the customization, the source, the customization, and the URL, right? So we can reuse the logic there. And instead of looking at the name in the source ref, for which we decide, oh, we need to check for overlapping paths, we don't look at the name. We look at the URL, the property, right? And if the
Yeah.
URL is the same and the paths are overlapping, then it's a warning. And that's how we solve also in the multi-tenancy case. Because if you have the same OCI repo declaring 10 namespaces, they all have the same exact URL. They are pointing to the same image and they are applying the same path from inside the image, and the customization target name is the same, target namespace is the same, it's clear you have a conflict. Like,
If the
because
URL happen to be the same and don't have a .git, at the end on one and whatever. But yes, yeah, like it's
of course,
I think it
yeah,
seems like we could build some debugging tools that would help people catch a lot of errors here. So yeah, that's pretty
yeah,
clear. There's a lot of edge cases, and writing something that doesn't give people false confidence that nothing is wrong, but helps them understand when things are wrong. I think that's possible. So
yeah. We will have a warning anyway. The Flux debug has a bunch of warnings because
yeah,
the debug tool is not. It gives you some suggestions. It's not about this is the actual thing, but
yeah,
we can just print. We think this is an issue. You have to look
uh,
into it if it's actually you are actually applying the same exact things. Maybe you're
yeah,
not. Maybe you have a customized patch that
yes,
patches the name of the resource and changes the name so they don't overlap. I don't know. You can do with customized patches all crazy stuff. You can add prefixes,
yeah,
right? And
absolutely.
there are so many things on how you can avoid overlapping, but at least we should issue a warning. Maybe these things are overlapping.
Yeah, actually,
Uh,
I feel like I've done a lot of that in my old examples of pointing to the same library path from different customizations and it explicitly not being an error because I'm changing the namespace, or so
Yeah, that's simple to see because target namespace is a property
yeah.
on the Flux customization. So
Yeah, I
we can
think
include it to determine uniqueness. We'll have the URL of the source,
uh-huh.
the target namespace, and the spec target namespace, spec path,
Yeah, if they're
right? If
targeting the same namespace, if it's not pointing at a different cluster, like that kind of stuff.
yeah,
That's important to check for as well. It's not just are the paths are overlapping. It's like, are the paths overlapping and is the expected generation of this probably going to produce resources that are the same? Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Um,
Okay,
cool.
I need to go.
Yeah, let's
Was
let's
fun
stop talking.
chatting.
We talked about a lot of great stuff. Thank you for
Yeah.
being amazing.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.